The nanotechnology marvel known as Eterna was revealed to the public in the year 2047 by a team of bioengineers who were carrying out their work at a top-secret facility. This technological wonder not only made the promise of extending life, but it also aimed to entirely eliminate the process of aging. The core of this technology, which had been created over the course of many decades, consisted of the replication of nanobots that were only slightly larger than viruses and were injected into the bloodstream in a single dose. In order to combat oxidative stress, which is linked to the slow rusting of human machinery, molecular scavengers were able to be effective. Additionally, the bots were able to readjust the efficiency of the mitochondria, which resulted in the biological clock being reset. In the course of clinical research, it came as a surprise to discover that individuals who were 65 years old emerged with the same vitality and biomarkers as their selves when they were 25 years old. The gray hair on their heads became darker, the arthritis they had gone, and their intellect became sharper. By the year 2050, Eterna had transitioned from being a phenomenon that was only seen in experiments to being a phenomenon that was observed all over the globe. Instantaneously, the remarkable benefits were readily obvious. The eternal generation is now contributing to the process of reinventing civilization. What was the purpose of retiring when both your body and your mind were still operating at their peak performance? Due to the fact that people died of old age, retirement became an outmoded concept. The accumulation of experience continued without lessening, which led to the flourishing of countries' economies. Artists have been responsible for the creation of masterpieces over the period of centuries, while scientists have spent their whole lives studying and developing ideas. Cancer and Alzheimer's disease, which were once specters of the past, have now become things of the past. People now consider these diseases to be relics of the past. As birth rates declined, populations were more stable. There was no reason to rush to reproduce when the possibility of everlasting life was looming in the distance. By the year 2060, the human race has gotten more confident, healthier, and taller to a greater extent. One of the utopian dreams that came to fruition on occasion was a society that was liberated from the constraints of mortality. On the other hand, it was found that nature was more difficult to persuade than was previously believed to be the case. During the first phases of development, the nanobots, which were meant to be capable of self-regulation, went through the process. They were confronted with unpredictability as a consequence of their quantum programming, which was designed to manage a wide range of biological systems. Some Eternals were said to have stopped aging in an unnaturally quick way, according to reports that began to spread around the year 2070. Eternals, who were now a privileged caste, hoarded power as a result of their unlimited longevity, which exacerbated the economic disparities that were already there. For governments, the process of adjustment proved challenging. If the people who hold positions of power never reach their senior years, then why would we have elections? As society progressed, murder became the ultimate expression of disobedience against the eternal elite, and crime changed in accordance with this. This was going on at the same time as the hypergenics were coping with their own crisis, which was infertility issues. After the bots came to the conclusion that reproduction was not successful, they ceased the manufacturing of gametes. Despite the fact that they possessed the capacity to live eternally, members of the eternal generation were unable to experience a second birth. When it came to issues of morality, absolutely everything in the world came crashing down. When it came to having everlasting life, it was either a blessing or a burden. Many different religions had various ways of describing the idea of spirits that were freed from the confines of death. Some of these religions termed it blasphemy, while others called it salvation. The concept was a problematic subject for many different faiths. The accumulation of sadness, love, and regret that spanned decades was a source of excruciating pain for them, and there was no indication that they might escape the situation. A new illness emerged, which was referred to as eternal fatigue, and it was a kind of exhaustion that could not be remedied by a nanobot by any means. There was a rise in suicides, despite the fact that bots often intervened since they felt that killing oneself was a problem that needed to be repaired. By the year 2090, the unanticipated pandemonium had reached its zenith, at which point it had reached its zenith. Through the establishment of enclaves, they carried out experiments on themselves, which resulted in extraordinary changes occurring inside their bodies. The wings that they built were composed of carbon nanotubes, and they also developed lungs that were capable of breathing underwater. At that point in time, the hypergenics, who were a part of the Eternals, had split off from the rest of the group and formed their own independent organization. With the purpose of killing the bots, the mortals engaged in guerrilla warfare utilizing electromagnetic pulse, EMP weaponry. However, they were surprised to discover that the bots were able to recreate themselves via resistance. The question continued to linger, going unanswered. What did it mean to be human when the boundaries of nature were removed? Despite the fact that Eterna had shed light on a way to access eternity, the price was a mirror that was held up to humanity's soul, revealing both the bright side and the dark side of ambition in equal measure.